Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Stuart Shapiro, Senior Product Manager here at Lula. And before I focused my career on product management, I was a business owner myself. So being in your position, I really know the importance of having the right tools, funding, support, clarity, and help when you're building your business in South Africa. And some of you may be globally or internationally, all around the world. That's why I'm excited today to be talking about your Lula FAQs. These are questions that you've asked and that have come to CX, and we would like to address today. We've gathered the most important questions, and we'll go straight to the source today with two of our best here at Lula. With me is Clinton Thomas, Head of Product, and Thomas McKinnon, our Chief Growth Officer. Two people who are shaping the future and the software that you're using today. Welcome. I'll be guiding the conversation, asking the questions you've raised, and open the floor to you. So at the end, we'll have an open mic. And until then, please feel free to ask any questions you may have in the chat, and we'll address them. We'll be looking at funding and banking and exploring some features you might not know exists. And we're trying to get the most out of this session. So please feel free to reach out as we go through it. And then to our two guests, Thomas, hi, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, Stu. Yeah, good to connect and hoping we can answer some of those burning questions many of our customers have.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart, and welcome, everyone. Yeah, looking to answer your questions.
Great. Hi, Clinton. Hi, Thomas. Okay, guys, I want to get into a question that's come up quite a bit. It's one of our really exciting features. It's called Lula Pay. It's a buy now, pay later feature. And we're going to hand this over to Clinton. Clinton, tell us, what is Lula Pay? How does it work? Please unpack this for us.
Thanks, Stuart. Yeah, sure. So Lula Pay is a product that we offer where it is business to business funding, and it's buy now, pay later option. So as I step through this, I'll show you where you can find the information as well, and I'll guide you through the process. So when we go on lula.co.za, we'll look at our trade capital menu. We'll click on this. But basically, just to give you a quick overview of what that looks like or how it works is, if you imagine that you are, as a business owner, someone that needs to provide a service. So let's say you're in the manufacturing business, right? And you've got a job that you have been commissioned to do, and you require materials for that job. Now, obviously, after the job has been completed, you might get some money up front as a deposit, but generally you'll get paid after the fact. But you need that funds now in order to buy the materials and so forth. So what we offer through Lula Pay is that if we take an example like Build It would have the material that you need. Build It would be signed up with Lula as a Lula Pay seller. And you would then register either directly with us or through invitation from one of our sellers as a buyer on Lula Pay. And effectively what it does then is that application would go through, and we would say, as an example, you need material worth 100,000 Rand. Then what happens is Lula Pay will actually settle that account with Build It, and you'll get the goods on the spot. You'll leave with the goods, and then you'll pay us back over a period of time, whatever period you select. So it allows for you to take on bigger jobs than you normally would be able to do. We've got the agreements already in place with these sellers. They've been registered with us. We can sign up more sellers as well. But effectively, it puts the capability in your hands to say, I can get that goods now, and then I'll pay it over a period of time. And all of this would happen through our Lula Pay team. So when you go onto this page where I'm showing you now, the trade capital part on lula.co.za, you'll click Get Started. You'll start the process then of registering either as a buyer or a seller, and then our team will pick it up from there. So the Lula Pay team will pick it up. They'll guide you through the process. You'll tell them what it is you need, and if they already have sellers, they'll tie you up to those sellers. If not, we'll work with the team to see how we can give you that capability. But generally, that's as a high level, Stuart, that would be what Lula Pay is about.
Great, interesting. So Lula Pay and funding, can you help me understand the difference? When might I go for funding and when might I go for Lula Pay?
Sure. So if you're going to go for funding, look, you might need the funds for more than one thing, right? So you might need a little bit of it for marketing. You might need some for salaries. You need some for material. And let's take the same example. So as a manufacturer, you would, or in the construction space, you might say, I need material, but I also need services of others, and I need to hire plant. And because you need quite a variety of items, you would generally then probably be better suited to go for normal funding, where you get the full amount and you make various payments there. But if it's all located to one, so you know you're going to have an ongoing relationship with the example we made, where we say, it's a hardware provider. You've got this ongoing relationship. You know you're going to need goods from them every week or every month or very frequently. Then Lula Pay would be the option, because that agreement would already be in place. There would be a facility that's set up where there's an agreed amount that we can buy up to, and then the repayments also is done in one payment. So funding, if we have more than one, potentially we want to go for more than one invoice that we need to pay, so goods, services, etc. And then if we know that we're going to be dealing with a seller very often, then that would be the better option to go with Lula Pay.
So would you say that we're finding customers are doing both funding and Lula Pay then to meet those needs and examples?
There are times they might have a very small Lula Pay where they say, this is just something that I want to have open. It's a facility that stands there that I know that I can fall onto when I need it. There's an assessment done when I do it, but they know that there's some exposure that they have. And then their funding is probably for much bigger expansion. So yes, we do have occasions, but generally we do one or the other.
So
Great.
just out of interest, I mean, one of the reasons why we created Lula Pay to begin with, especially coming out of the pandemic, what we found is a lot of businesses were no longer willing to provide terms. So if you're running a business and all of your customers and you're selling goods to other businesses, so you're operating in a B2B space, if you're selling products and goods or whatever, you're invoicing businesses and they're asking you for terms, especially after the pandemic, there was this big, cash flow crunch, and offering terms wasn't really something that every business could do or afford to do, because basically you're offering credit to your customers. And so whether you're carrying 60, 90, whatever days of waiting, extra time to get paid after you've delivered goods or services, that can be quite a strain. And so what we found is many businesses were unwilling to provide or extend more terms or more credit to their buyers, but many buyers needed terms in order to complete a purchase. And so out of that was born Lula Pay. And a really interesting stat or something to think through is, SMEs, so small, medium businesses, generally have to wait almost twice as long as a corporate to get paid if they do provide terms. So even if you just provide 30 days terms to your customers, I think we all know that customers can take longer to pay you back. Lula Pay is a way to basically let Lula carry the risk of the terms, either in terms of if you don't want to extend credit to your customers, Lula Pay can be an option for them to get funded for a particular purchase or an invoice, or to get a facility for buying just with you. Or if you need to get a facility and your supplier is not really willing to give it, would they consider Lula Pay being able to settle on behalf of customers? So that was like really the core insight there, is that SMEs, when they provide terms, are waiting almost twice as long to get paid. And so this product, while from a funding perspective, Lula's always just serviced whoever's getting funded. This is a way that we can service both sides of the market, people that want to get funded so that they can buy goods and services, but also businesses that are selling and want to offer an alternative funding option rather than just terms to their customers.
Thomas, would I use it for a once-off, or is it only for reoccurring?
You can use it for both, but I think the value in it is, Would you get terms with a business for just a once-off deal? Probably not. So I think it works best as a recurring thing, but it can absolutely be used off for like a once-off large purchase. Needs to be settled.
Great. And Clinton, this one's for you. Tell me, what is the ideal customer then for Lula Pay?
Yeah, so I spoke to the buyer perspective, but as Thomas has spoken to now as well, I mean, for the sellers, so if we are suppliers, we've got a warehouse, we've got stock, and our customers are struggling to pay us, or our customers are buying smaller because that's what they are capable of or what they can afford at this point. For a seller, it's a great opportunity to say, like, I've registered, I can register you, we can assess that. Lula carries the risk, right? So, which means you can make bigger sales to your customers. You can provide your customers and grow them with more than they can afford on the spot, and they could then repay Lula. And because Lula does the assessments and Lula carries the risk, you just sell the goods. So an ideal customer, if it's not a buyer, would be to register as a seller for Lula Pay and then offer that on to your customers.
Is that a way I could expand my network and who I'm selling to?
Definitely. If usually your network was limited to those that could only afford on the spot, or they can afford it on what their credit card could handle, you could expand into that and go into bigger markets potentially. But yeah.
Right. Okay, and I want to get into some concepts around banking, but do I need a Lula bank account in order to have Lula Pay?
No. So we always encourage having a Lula bank account. You'll hear that it's quite an amazing product, but no, you don't require the Lula bank account for it. We can use an alternate bank account as well.
Okay. And then in the banking space, guys, and for those that just joined, please feel free to write any questions in the chat. We'll also have an open mic at the end if you want to speak up and have a dialogue, and we can answer your questions. So we don't need a Lula bank account, but I know there is a huge amount of value in the Lula bank. I mean, I'm part of the team that's building it, and we're pretty uniquely positioned for SMEs. But Thomas, what really makes Lula Bank special? What would you say is the USP behind it?
Great. So Stu, I think first things first, we decided to build the Lula Bank offering off the back of what customers were telling us, some of their problems with incumbent banks and things like that. So something that we were hearing a lot is, I'm just a number at another bank. I can't get the funding I'm looking for, or I can't get the funding fast enough. And so really with the Lula offering, we try to keep things incredibly simple. And so I think it's not just one bank account that we're offering. So out of interest, if you want to find out more about Lula's bank offerings, you can come to the Lula site. You can really find out a good bit more about the offering. But it's not just one offering, it's actually two. So we have the free monthly account. So that means there's no monthly fees. It's very much a pay-per-use model, which works really well if you're a small business or you have lumpy cash flow. So maybe this is something that's good for much smaller businesses that are just starting out maybe and don't necessarily want to pay big fees. And then I think probably the real value add and the core product is what we call our unlimited bank account. And so the unlimited account is targeted at more established revenue generating businesses, generally, PTY limiteds that are also going to be eligible for funding. And there are three things. If I had to just call out three things that make this account quite unique and different and address the needs of our customers. One, there's a flat monthly fee. And with that monthly fee, all of your EFT transactions in and out are included. You're not going to be charged any additional fees. So it's a very transparent, here's a flat monthly fee. you get a fully featured bank account and EFTs, which make up about 80% of the transaction types that we see coming through. All the fees for that are covered. It also gives you access to additional cards, so up to 5 cards. And really, the other thing that's the second fundamental USP is that with the unlimited bank account, you get a dedicated relationship banker. So you get one person that you can speak to at Lula that can know your business, that can help you with both your banking and your funding. And so I think that transparency of fees up front, that ability to speak to a human when you really need it. I mean, many business owners just want to pick up the phone and speak to somebody and say, look, this is what I need, or they want to send an email and say, look, you need to get this sorted for me, please. And that's really the experience that we're trying to create here, which I don't think many others would. And so that idea of just being a number isn't the case here at all. And then finally, the fact that funding, we do fund up to 5 million Rand. We're looking at basically, how might we grow that value as well. But if your Lula facility, you also have a Lula facility, it's a great way to very quickly manage your cash flow. So moving funds between your capital facility, for instance, and your bank account, or settling your capital facility quickly is a great experience as well. So those for me are the fundamentals.
That interests me around the funding and the Lula's facility. So how's that speeding up funding? How does it help? Is it speeding up funding? What are the benefits there, the cross-pollination between the two?
Yeah, so look, I mean, the honest answer is not every business is eligible for funding. A lot of that is about affordability. We are at the moment, if you're a Lula Unlimited customer, you do get a capital facility opened with it for a nominal amount, but how large that facility is dependent on how much you can afford, right? So like we do lean into affordable funding and responsible funding. So we try not to approve amounts that the business, or we definitely don't approve amounts that the businesses can't afford. And so, yes, they play well together. It's not guaranteed that you'd always have them together. One of the core benefits, though, is if you do have a Lula facility and you've got a Lula bank account, and you do and your withdrawal gets approved for funding, that payment will happen within 2 hours of basically your funding being approved, which is, so that's lightning fast. It's not something that you would see, at most institutions.
Yeah, that's amazing. There was a time many years ago when I was running my business and we had this opportunity to expand, and it involved a lot of cash flow that I didn't plan for at the time. And something like that, being able to access funding so quickly, would have been absolutely remarkable. I can't tell you the numbers, sleepless nights I have and trying to hustle to get that funding. So I wish I'd known about this all those many years ago. There's a referral program that people have been asking about. I'd love to hear from you, Clinton. Can you tell me more about the referral program? Who's it for and how does it work?
Yeah, sure. So our referral program that we started in Lula is for Lula bank account owners. So whether it's a free bank account or an unlimited bank account, we're giving the opportunity to those to refer other registered business owners. So anyone else who has a registered Pty limited or a CC, you can refer those businesses. And when those businesses are approved for a bank account and they start transacting, as long as you have transacted, they start their transactions, you as the advocate who referred that business will get 500 Rand reward. And then that business to get started within the Lula bank account will also get a 500 Rand referral bonus. That's just to get them started on the Lula bank account. They can use it to sign up for an unlimited account, as to what Thomas spoke to now, or they can use it to start growing their business. What we seeing is that we've got some of the business owners that signs up, they refer very good businesses to us that are very frequently transacting, and they're getting bonuses one after the other. We do have a limitation on that it has to be a registered business. So we can't just sort of invite our friends and gain a referral from that. So it has to be a registered business. They have to be approved for a bank account. But it's a good opportunity for us to act as an affiliate potentially, where we're doing the referrals and we get 500 Rand for each successful referral that we send through. And it's purely for having a Lula business bank account and referring others to have their own as well.
Okay. And the key there is that when we refer someone, they have to be transacting. They have to utilize the Lula bank account.
Yes, so you will obtain a link in your business banking platform when you log in, and we'll show you that very shortly or during the course of this. You will get a link, and that link you can share either directly from our platform by putting someone's email in there, or you can copy the link and you can share it via social media or WhatsApp, or share it with friends or family. And then, yeah, when they successfully apply, as long as they do their first transaction and you've kept on transacting, then you will be eligible for a reward, both you as well as the person that you have referred.
And if I invite someone to the platform and they start using it maybe after 31 days, am I still eligible?
No, so I'll share a link in the chat here, and we'll also add a link into the description of the video, just to look at the FAQs around it. It's very easy terms and conditions to go through, not lengthy document, but I'll share the link and then you can go through it. But there are some limitations. So it has to be within 30 days of the invitation, the first transaction. The person referring also should not have a dormant account where they haven't transacted in more than 30 days. So as long as their accounts are active, the transaction has taken place within 30 days, then you will be eligible. And for anyone using the account as an active account or a primary account, that shouldn't be too difficult. And
Wow.
Singele, yes, if you successfully sign them up and they are approved for accounts and they are all registered businesses, yes, but you'll see in the terms and conditions, what we do is we do have a limit of 150 referrals per person. But like you said, if you get 100 businesses, you're still well within your limit of 150 referrals.
Amazing. Thanks, Clinton. All right, let's explore a little bit around funding. I'm going to pivot back to Thomas. Thomas, about funding. How much is available to businesses? Help me understand the terms, please.
Sure, Stu. So probably the number one thing that customers are calling in for to try and understand about Lula is just kind of funding. You know, how much do I qualify for? Up to how much can I get? So the thing I'll flag is we've got a very useful help center. So if you're on lula.co today, let me just go there quick. On lula.co today, under the main menu, resources, we've got our help center section. And this answers so many of the questions that come in. But as you say, how much can you get? Like, what are the terms, all of that sort of thing. So I think something that's super useful and shows this, demonstrates it quite nicely, is a little funding calculator that we've got on our site. And this kind of shows you the mechanics of our product. And so you can apply for up to a maximum of 5 million. So between 10,000 Rand and 5 million Rand at the moment. This amount has increased as our business has grown, as we've grown ourselves, and hoping to, that's something that we can continue. But our max value, 5 million, our lowest value, 10,000. And then the terms in which we can offer this is 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. So what would normally happen if you apply for funding? If you click Get Started on the Lula website and you go through the application process, we ask for quite a lot of information. So we'll get business details, personal information, For funding, at a minimum, we need 3 months worth of bank statements. And then that allows us to basically see how much you qualify for. And we would make you a funding offer. We'd come back to you with a quote that would be for a value, for a term, and give you, what would that cost you? And so we'd give you a bit of a price breakdown on what that would cost. So, for instance, let's look at 100,000 Rand over 9 months. You basically get a little bit of a breakdown here of here's the each month what the capital repayment amount would be to get to the 100,000. Here's the cost of the actual funding. So we don't charge interest. We charge a monthly fee, and then you get a total payment due. What's really interesting about this is just understanding, how playing with your term can affect your total cost, as well as what your monthly cash flow is. So it's really useful to go through this little exercise and see, okay, well, this taking out 100,000 Rand, paying it back over 6 months, yes, it's going to cost me 17,000. But what does it look like in terms of my monthly payment? If you compare that to a 12-month, which is going to cost you more, significantly more money, but then your monthly repayment is significantly less. So it's very much a cash flow decision that needs to be made. But I think coming to the Lula calculator page, this answers many questions. What's the highest and lowest value that we fund? What are the terms? So what's the tenors or the amount of time that we fund for? And then this isn't like a general or an aggregated cost indicator. We do price for every deal that we do, or every quote that we put out. There's custom pricing for customers. But yeah, that's the gist of it. Once we get your documents, we would present you with a quote that would cover those kind of 3 elements: how much we think you can afford to that maximum affordability value, the length we recommend repaying over, and a cost. You can obviously speak to one of our sales staff and ask for like tweaks to that quote. That's not a problem.
Thanks, Tom. So it looks simple. I've actually got a follow up on that. What's the benefit? Why would I come to Lula for funding as opposed to going to my classic big bank and going through that process of funding? Because that looked really simple.
Yeah, look, I think with Lula, you can apply completely online. The average application takes about 12 minutes to submit. So it's a really fast, if you think about it, if you're asking for, 100,000 Rand or a million Rand or 5 million Rand, filling out an online application for 12 to 15 minutes is not that crazy. So it's a very fast online application process. If we have all the documentation that we need, so the bank statements is normally where things stick a little bit, or if we need extra information. Once we have a complete app, or like an app that we can assess, we can get an answer to you within 24 hours and get you paid. So, there isn't a lot of paperwork. It's all digital. It's all super fast. The approval can happen in really no time at all compared to an incumbent bank, or one of the incumbents like a bank. And so I think that fast, flexible, funding is really where we shine. And then the other thing is, because we charge one flat fee, it's really transparent. Fine, it probably makes it look like we're a little bit more expensive, but in real terms, once you take in interest plus like an initiation fee and a monthly account opening fee and a notification fee from the bank and everything that you normally see, this isn't fundamentally that much more expensive. And then a real benefit is we don't charge penalties for early settlement. So you can actually also, there's some upside on that front. I think we'll chat about that in a little bit. But yeah, I think that's what really sets Lula apart.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I think back to my business days, it just seemed like a mountain to apply at my bank at the time when I wasn't banking with Lula. And there were just too many unknowns. I felt like I needed a degree in funding and applying for funding in order to even go that route. It really didn't seem feasible. So an example there is, just say my business is just over a year old, for example. Can I apply for funding? Do I meet the requirements? Who can apply? Let's, Thomas, can you address that?
Yeah. So Lula's primary customer is a revenue generating business. And so we tend to fund businesses that are growing, and we want our capital to be focused on growth capital. And so I think that the easiest way, and let me like kind of show this, create the visuals around it. At the most simple level, we're looking for established South African businesses with a trading history longer than 1 year. So that implies we don't fund startups, which, you know, we generally don't fund a startup. We're not a venture capital business. We're providing something like a loan, so we're advancing money on revenue. And so I think that's really important to understand. What Lula does is we actually buy future revenue. That's our agreement with our customers. So and that's why affordability is so important. We want to be able to project what we think you're going to be earning in the future. And we basically buy that future revenue or a portion of that. And so that's why being a business that's already operating, has a trading history, is so vital. We also...
Sorry to interrupt you. Before you go on there, Thomas, does it matter what type of business?
So no, not necessarily. PTY Limiteds make up the majority, and that including, closed corporations that have had to kind of, that have been kind of absorbed into the PTY Limited structure. So private businesses make up the vast majority of the businesses we fund and bank. But we also look at sole proprietorships as well. And so sole traders, sole proprietors, we can service either of those two entity types. We don't, for instance, fund listed companies. We don't do NGOs, like non-governmental or non-profit kind of orgs. So if you've got one of those registration numbers, then that's not really something that we can assist with. So it is very much like for-profit businesses, whether it's a sole proprietor or a PTY Limited, that we're focused on.
And well, I mean, in the chat here, Mark's asked, he said he has a client who has a restaurant / shebeen. Would that be someone who could potentially qualify?
Yeah, absolutely. And so if they're a sole proprietor, so it's like an individual, but that owns that business outright and operates it as a sole proprietorship, that's no problem. If they're a registered PTY Limited, that's not a problem either. We do have a list of, and I can go and get that list of businesses we don't fund. So we do have excluded industries. So for instance, gambling is an excluded industry for us. We won't fund a gambling business. So Mark, I'd have to just go and confirm. There are certain alcohol kind of business restrictions, excluded industries, but in terms of restaurants that have liquor licenses, that's no issue. As far as I'm aware. So bottle stores, yeah, probably we don't fund bottle stores, that sort of thing. Shebeens might be a bit of an issue, but a restaurant with a liquor license is a bit of a different story. What we can do, Mark, is I can get you from our credit team the actual restriction, like a very specific bit of feedback on what the restriction is. So if you drop us your details afterwards, I'll go and I'll get that information for you.
Thanks, Thomas. And then to continue around the revenue. So let's take Mark's example here. Talk to me about the revenue and the financial health.
Yeah, so like we're looking for growth stage businesses, and the minimum kind of turnover would be 40,000 Rand per month. And this speaks to affordability, right? A business needs to be able to afford to repay funding over time. So that's where the minimum revenue requirement comes in. Whether you're kind of equating that to 40,000 Rand per month, or rounding it up to 500K per year, that's the minimum kind of revenue number that we're looking at. And then generally, something that does come up is businesses that are operating kind of in the red already, that maybe don't have a positive bank balance, don't have affordability is how we would term it, or balance-based affordability. You need to have a positive balance. And I know that like many applicants will say to us, but like, I wouldn't be borrowing money if I had it. I think Lula, this is cash flow capital, right? This is capital for growing a business. It's not necessarily that capital for starting a business. And then personal credit score does come into it. So yes, having a good business credit score is important. But in terms of the directors or the owners of the business, I think it's important to make sure that you've got a good, healthy, positive credit score as well.
Does that cash flow need to be consistent? I mean, you think about maybe 1 month I might make 20 and the next month I might make 80, for example.
Yeah, look, I mean, lumpy income businesses, and you definitely see this in industries like construction. You see it in retail. No business is going to have the same revenue coming in, unless they've only got one contract, and that contract's just paying over and over that month, right? There are very few businesses that have a nice, flat, kind of predictable revenue structure. But having it like a minimum that's coming in every single month, and having some predictability in it is important. Yeah, so we do fund businesses with lumpier income. It's a little bit harder to measure that affordability, and obviously the risk, how we understand that risk, is a little bit different.
Great, thank you. All right, Clinton, a moment for you. Perhaps this is something you could demo or just talk through with us. What are the required documents and per company type? Thomas has mentioned P2I, close corporations, sole proprietors. If you could just touch on that, please.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll share a link again for everyone, and we'll share this in the description of the video later again. But on our website, we do speak to it. And in this case, for our banking accounts, you'll see that we need to get your ID book. We'll need to verify your address. So this would be for each one of the directors of the business. And then also we will need a copy of the company registration document. For sole traders, there will be a document that will be provided by our company, which needs to be completed. But in the case of our PTYs or our closed corporations, we will need the documents. And then we also link here very specifically which documents it is, just to make it easier for you. And during our onboarding process, we've made it completely digital, that your ID document, your facial recognition, as well as the document uploads would happen during that onboarding. And as Thomas said, on average, this entire onboarding and application process takes about 12 minutes. This would even form part of that as well. So if you're going to come through for our funding application, you would specify the amount, as Thomas showed us earlier. And then for the banking space, these would be the documents needed for a bank account with Lula.
Great, thank you, Clinton. And then another question that's come up, also for you, Clinton. Can I change my debit order? How do I do this? Is it an app, email, phone? What's the process?
Yeah, so yeah, Stuart, the best would be to just reach out to the salesperson or the customer services consultant that you normally deal with. Generally, what happens is you would be able to change that, but it depends on the date, right? So if we do have a weekly repayment, if we want to shift it out by a day, that's generally fine. But what we see is when we are running those debits, we do lock down or on the debit 3 days before the debit order is due to run, because that's generally when we start putting our files together. We send it off for debit to the various banks, etc., etc. So as long as it's not within that first 3 days, and then there would be some limitations also on how far out you can push it, right? So if we do have, for instance, again, a weekly repayment, we can't, for instance, push out that debit order by another week, as an example. Sometimes it will be allowed, but again, I think based on the account status, based on previous payments, and then based on when the next payment would be due, it would be best to discuss this with the salesperson as well, or as well with the customer services representative that you normally deal with. And if there isn't someone that you've dealt with before, then just reach out to our customer support team. They would be able to guide you from there.
Cool. Thank you. And then on the flip side of that, I want to settle early. How do I go about doing that?
Yeah, great. Again, so reach out. You do have the option of asking for a settlement quote. So generally what you'll do is when you go onto your platform, you will see what your outstanding balance is at that moment. And then if you want to settle, our team will help you with the settlement quote. They'll turn that around quite quickly. And then they'll also provide you with banking details to make that settlement earlier. But the best in that scenario would be to reach out. But I'm sure if we look at the platform, then it also shows you your balances there. So you actually get a very good idea just by looking on what we provide on the front end.
Great. Thank you. Thomas, for you, a question that comes up. How do I activate my Lula Bank card PIN? How do I choose my PIN? And will it work immediately once I've set that within the Lula Bank?
Cool, thanks, G. So yeah, definitely a question that comes up quite often. And because almost everything we do is digital, this is probably one of the few things that we do that's like in the physical world. So let me just start by saying that once you're logged into the Lula platform, and so this is an example where you're logged into, you can see my bank accounts. So I've got a few test bank accounts here. When you log in, this is kind of the default view that you'd have. What I've done here is just create a new bank account, just to give you an idea of what this looks like. And so point number one, when you open a new bank account or add an additional account, you can add bank accounts here quite easily as a Lula customer. When you go into your account, if you've got transactions, you'll see your transactions. But in terms of cards, every Lula bank account gets issued with a primary virtual card as soon as the account is opened. So you'll have your virtual card. It'll be set up immediately, and you'll be able to basically use that card for online transactions, so forth. So very much like it's a virtual card. You can use it for e-commerce transactions is probably the primary use case, and that's activated out the box. But what you have to do is order your physical card. So you're not by default going to get a physical card. You actually have to order a physical card. You can do that by going to the account that you want to add a card for, going to the cards page, adding the add card. You can add another virtual card for somebody else maybe within the business, or you can choose to add your physical card. You need to be able to say who you're assigning that card to, and you need to be able to say what that card is for, or the business name on the card. And from there, you then need to specify where are you going to get that card delivered to. You need to basically specify an address, everything that needs to happen for the card, and then you'd go ahead and order that card. Let's hope that this works. I'm doing this as a live demo. And so, yeah, great. My card is now on its way. You'll see there now I've got this card. I've got a tracking number. I can phone Lula, ask about it. If I need to go and activate that card now, I can see it has been ordered. And let's pretend that it's been delivered. If I'm now going to activate that card, I need to enter the PAN, so the card number. I need to enter the expiry date and the CVV, click activate. At this point in time, it's going to ask for a PIN. You enter that PIN in, it's a 4-digit PIN. You enter that 4-digit PIN into the app there. You confirm it, and then you save it, and then that PIN is set. So you actually set your PIN as the card is delivered. It's not that you get a PIN sent to you that you have to remember or you have to change. The one thing I'd say is once you get that card, the first time you tap it, it won't work. Like all brand new cards, you actually have to do a chip and PIN transaction before the tap to pay becomes active. And just to give you a little bit of an idea, I don't know how much you can see here, but what it looks like is when you get a card sent to you, comes in a package that looks like this, like a little envelope, comes from the courier company. That courier company will give you a PIN. You basically need you'll get SMS'd a PIN that you need to give to the courier company. Once you open up your card, you get a great little card on the inside. You can take that card out. There's a couple of instructions on what to do. Just a note, at the moment, you can only activate cards on web, not on the mobile app yet. We will do card activation mobile app soon. And yeah, in terms of the card itself, you'd need to take the PAN, take the expiry date and the CVV, and that's what you enter into the app to get it activated. So a little bit of a process, but we have made it as easy as possible, we believe.
Brilliant. Thank you, Thomas. That was very thorough.